Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Roster drama continuing last night with the Brazilian team completely blowing it up. Major rumours as to what Loud, Fury, among others, are going to be up to, but also some big discussion around the agent changes that are coming soon. Yesterday, the big talking point for many pros was, why is Tejo getting nerfed? Turns out he is in the relatively near future. Very much interested to your thoughts on all this in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We'll start right about here because the big update has finally arrived that we actually might be getting a replay system at some point. So yeah, there was talk about this yesterday and Anna confirmed that yes, as well was rumoured a couple of days ago now, that replays may arrive September, October. It does seem like yes, there is a date in mind and replays will arrive in September. So, you know, look, it's been 5 years, but according to what they have to say, in September, there will finally be a replay system in VALORANT. That is the timeline they are working with. I mean, yesterday she said kind of, or day before, September, October, possibly. So, look, it might get delayed, it might get pushed back, I'm hoping not. But if she's confident enough to say no, it's arriving in September, then hopefully it will be. And this is also another big one. Tejo is getting nerfed in 10.09. Turns out rockets are quite strong right now. Create some situations where you don't have to, good ways to counter them. So we're taking some of the fuel out of his rockets and bringing in more in line with other initiators. You'll see a video about the changes today. And ability overload. So this is the big talking point right now in VALORANT. We see it too. It's a top priority for us. And honestly, it's been more exaggerated because of Tejo. Some of these changes will roll out throughout the year. Bigger changes planned post-champs. They've got a video coming soon. So we'll see. I mean, look, it addresses some key questions, some key concerns, the Tejo piece, the ability overload piece, and the replay piece. So we'll see about that. They also revealed this, what appears to be a piece of a new map. I mean, look, it kind of has elements of other maps that we've seen. I mean, like, you kind of look at part of this, you think maybe it's a little bit Havenish. That's maybe possible. Or, where the range is, people are talking about to see in the replies. Like, it might be a TDM map. We'll see what happens there. But, there was just, I think there was another image of this as well. Yeah, it looks like a pretty similar spot. But, yeah, anyway, we'll see how that goes. There's some discussions on maybe a new map coming into VALORANT relatively soon as well. And as we just described, Tejo is going to get his rockets nerfed in the next update, which is frankly about time, to be honest. But that's what the players have been discussing for some time. And as Ten says, sometimes I think about how absolutely broken but also fun the old jet knife right click was. It'd be a badass game mode to have like Valorant Classic rotated in for a short while, where we get to experience the nostalgia of old Valorant. Interesting idea there, really. It's like when, Fortnite brought back no build, or not brought it back, but they brought it in. So a no build Fortnite kind of felt a little bit like old Fortnite in the sense that it wasn't just crazy building all the time like people used to do back in the day. So yeah, interested to hear your thoughts on that one in the comments. But if Tens has an idea and he tweets it out, right, always take notes. That's what we know about that one, right? Now, in the challenger side, the Swiss stage round 5 goes the way of M80. Now, this is a particularly big deal, right? Because this TSM team will be looking real nice, and M80 with Caio, Bao, Okonos, Sato, and Victor. Of course, notably, Victor recently joined. Chet came in as their head coach. Sato has been linked to some Brazilian teams, but apparently M80 will not sell under any circumstances. And they got the 2-1 win. They lost the game on Icebox. They bounced back on the Lotus in an overtime, and then eventually they took the Haven 13-8. So great win from M80 yesterday. And that qualifies them for the playoffs. This is how things look now. Envy are 4-0, M80 are 4-1. TSM, after starting well, they've now dropped to 3-2, so it's not over yet for them. They will need to lock in the next series that they will play. But yeah, obviously good result for Chet and the guys in M80 as they can try to continue their run towards Ascension to try and win the whole thing. Let's talk Rostermania before we get there. Road to EWC. So this year, the Valorant World Championship is going to be held as usual later in the year, but the World Cup, Valorant will also feature at. Now, the prize pool for the World Cup for Valorant will be $1.25 million out there in Riyadh, and these are the numbers for the roads to EWC. So very interesting stuff. There will be 16 teams in attendance here at the World Cup, and these will be how they are determined. So, the top 2 teams from EMEA Stage 1, they get to go. The top 2 teams in the Americas, China, Pacific, they all go. So this makes things very interesting, right? Because currently, the top 3 teams make it in to Masters Toronto. So the games that are coming up, I mean, like tomorrow, right, and the days after, those are huge because they determine the 3 teams that go to Toronto. But the losers final is now also imperative because the winner of the losers final gets second rather than third And that's good enough to go to the World Cup, where even if you bomb out dead last, you're still taking home a hell of a lot of money, right? Because of, the prize pool is very substantial indeed. So they're then going to do online qualifiers in Europe and in Americas. So, it's still possible to qualify. They're going to have the 2 top teams at the China Evolution Series, and then they're going to have one in the ACL across the Pacific. So, the idea is to very much split it between 4 in Europe, 4 in the Americas, 4 from China, 4 from the Pacific. That's the plan, and that's probably about right. The way they're going to get there is going to be a little bit different, of course. So, we'll see what teams eventually make it, but definitely puts a little bit more pressure on these games over the coming days. But of course, some teams are not even going to be there, and this is one of them. So Fury are not really showing out of the playoffs, and there was a rumor on what their roster is going to be. This is like a possible new team. Of course, we have talked about Sato getting signs. But, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because as we just discussed here with M80, they have Sato currently. He's looking rather good for that team. Sure, if Furia came knocking and said, hey, we want you in Tier 1, maybe. But the rumour had it that even their franchise, M80, was simply not interested in selling, right? And that's the thing. If you're Furia, you might have to spend a lot of money to get him. And whether that's really the right way to go, who knows? They're probably going to get Toys, formerly of Loud. That kind of makes sense. Heat, keeping him around. Basic is one of the more promising talents in that region, right? So keeping him around also totally understandable. But, whether they can get Sato, the rest of these guys, that is still a bit of a question, right? And, well, Furia, they do say yesterday, Fury USA, is this thing still on, right? You guys remember when they signed that American team earlier in the season? It actually worked out rather well for one series. So Zelt is thinking maybe a similar thing needs to unfold as well. But let's talk about Loud and what's happening there, because this is the big rumor of yesterday, is that, well, Ixolos Laser, right? So if you guys are familiar with this team, they've been cooking in challenges now for some time. They're one of the big favourites, this region, this team anyway, for winning Ascension, and they have some talented players that have the potential to do some great things. They're also like the best scrim partner in the world, because they fry in scrims, they're great practice for the pro teams, but you don't have to play them in the Pro League, so it makes it even better that you don't have to give away any ideas to those rosters. But they confirm that Verti, one of their real top players, is going to be gone. They say it's time to part ways with him. A key member of the team is leaving, having left his mark on the club with his dedication, talent and passion. Thank you for everything, they say. And then Verti does this tweet and says, your mistake, thinking you were in America and all this stuff, you're a long way from home. And, it's a pretty good stuff. This is Brazil, he says. So, I think there's pretty clear what's going on here. I don't think we need to read between the lines too much on that. The Verti too loud is possibly going to be a thing. But how we got there, that is a really big question, right? And the latest rumor is that DG Zan is going to get kicked out of Loud. Now, this is an interesting decision. We did discuss what they were going to do the other day, who they were going to keep, who they were going to get rid of. And, frankly, a two-man change may well have been necessary. Pancada was never going to go anywhere. Luxo was never going to go anywhere. Cowanzan, I guess he could have gone somewhere, but, they decided to keep him around, which is probably the right call. Of course, Vinny is gone, Toys is gone, and all that after the changes they've made recently, but apparently DG Zan is gone as well. And this is it's an interesting decision, right? DG Zan, talented player, I think he'll be back, and I'm not sure it's necessarily the right call, but they probably felt like we need to make a two-man move, so that's what they've decided to do. And the two players they're bringing in, apparently, not from Brazil. We're talking Verti. And then, of course, as we said yesterday, Robbie BK, formerly of Gentlemate, getting linked over there too. So all rather confusing. Like, is it going to work? We shall see on that one, right? But there is a feeling that this is potentially what they're going to do. Vert even does a tweet on it and says, it's something unexpected. Want to thank Zolos for all my time with the team. And the future is uncertain but promising, he says. So, yeah, I think pretty clear that someone's come knocking rather than he's just decided to leave. There was also talk about this. So Patrick, who have parted ways, or he's parted ways with Global Esports. They've parted ways with him. And they're going to get banned. We saw yesterday Bannon had signed a contract, formerly of Talon. And apparently GE are going to get that player into their system for the second stage. So we'll see how that works out, if at all, for them. This is pretty funny, just as an aside, really, that FNS is going to be back. So, of course, FNS has managed with NRG not to make it through to the playoffs, or to the deep side of playoffs, let's say, when the actual qualification games occur. And that means that the watch parties are going to be back. So content creator FNS is back in business. I'm sure there's going to be lots of comments in the chat. Look, whether FNS does actually just ride it out for the rest of the season on this team, we'll see what NRG decide to do. But of course, it's not a pretty pretty state of affairs right now, that franchise, by any means. So very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Players in skill base, how different is it from NA servers compared to APAC? From like what I've learned from playing in APAC, I think players in NA, it's hard to say. Because like the good NA players, they're like, it's hard. I think APAC has way better aim. I will say that. But I think that NA players are, I would say, more disciplined. But then at the same time, there's a lot of NA players I see that are just like, discipline does not exist as a word. I'm trying to say that like NA has more discipline, but like, I don't know. There's people that definitely lack, it's kind of the same. It feels very similar. What server is strategically gifted? The only server that I've seen actually effectively mid-round in just like random rank players, I would probably have to say Europe. I think Europe actually, I saw people know what default is, spread out, do default, and then mid-round off that, which I would say that is probably the most like strategically gifted, I would say. But like at the same time, strategically very good, but the mental in Europe is like so like piss low. They will just like implode after one lost round. Or like if someone just like does something to piss them off, they just like completely check out of the game. Europe servers are very hard to play in nowadays, very toxic. Yeah, I mean that was like always like Europe's downfall for like playing and stuff. Like that's like, it's not even just Valorant, it's like any like video game. Europe is normally known as like being very toxic, which is like experiencing it, it's like definitely a well-known fact.